Don't go to that dinner. They're trying to declare you incompetent and take everything you've built. Samuel never imagined his own wife and daughter could betray him, but tonight, the truth would be revealed. Welcome back to your ultimate destination for gripping revenge stories, family betrayals, shocking betrayals, and emotional justice. Subscribe now and join a community and tell us where you're watching from. Turn on the notification bell for our next story. Are you ready to witness the ultimate payback? Let's get started. The room smelled faintly of old leather and ink. Samuel sat at his mahogany desk, sorting through unopened letters, when his phone buzzed. The screen flashed, Law Office of Richard Myers. He answered quickly, tension tightening his chest. Samuel, thank God you picked up, said the lawyer's voice, sharp and urgent. You need to hear this immediately. Don't go to the dinner tonight. What are you talking about? Samuel's hand trembled slightly. It's just a family dinner. What could possibly? Samuel, listen carefully. Your wife and your daughter. The voice hesitated, measured but heavy. They're trying to declare you incompetent. They want to take control of your house. Everything you own. They've already started the paperwork. Samuel froze. The words didn't register at first. His mind couldn't connect the smiling faces he'd known for decades with the treachery being described. I don't understand. Why? Richard sighed, as if carrying the weight of Samuel's disbelief. I know it's hard to hear. I've seen the documents. They've been consulting with a notary, preparing legal statements. If you attend that dinner, they might try to force you into signing, or worse, pressure you in front of everyone to give consent. Samuel dropped into his chair, clutching the edge of the desk. His heart pounded. Margaret and Clara? My own family. His voice cracked. They'd really do this? Richard's voice softened slightly. Samuel, I'm sorry, but yes, I've handled cases like this before. They're moving fast. You have very little time. Samuel's hands shook as he looked around his study, at the walls lined with photographs, memories of vacations, birthdays, the milestones of a life he thought was shared and cherished. And yet now, every memory felt fragile, tainted by betrayal. I've been blind, Samuel whispered, voice low, almost to himself. I thought we were a family. How could they even think to do this? Richard spoke again, firmly. Samuel, you need a plan. Do not attend the dinner. Call me tonight. We'll make sure you're protected. If they see you unprepared, they'll exploit it. Samuel's gaze fell to a photograph of Clara, his daughter, smiling at a summer festival just months ago. The innocence in her eyes now felt like a lie. The warmth of that smile was replaced by a chilling question. How could they turn on me so completely? Call me immediately, Samuel. Do not wait. Every hour counts, Richard repeated, urgency lacing every syllable. Samuel exhaled shakily, feeling a mix of fear, anger, and betrayal. His home, his sanctuary, was under threat, and those he had loved most were the architects of its siege. He picked up the phone again, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down. He could go to the dinner and risk everything, or listen to Richard and face the terrifying reality of a family conspiring against him. Margaret, his loyal housekeeper who had been with the family for decades, entered quietly, sensing the tension. Sir, what's wrong? Samuel looked at her, eyes wide, haunted. It's them, Margaret. My own wife, my daughter. They're planning to take everything. To declare me incapable. Tonight, at the dinner. Margaret gasped softly. We can stop them, sir. We will. Samuel leaned back, heart racing. For the first time, he realized that the people he had trusted the most might be his greatest threat. The room felt colder, the air heavier. Every laugh from past dinners, every shared moment of joy, now seemed like a mask hiding ambition and betrayal. If your own family was plotting against you, would you confront them, or protect yourself first? Samuel paced his study, phone clutched tightly in his hand. The words Richard had spoken repeated endlessly in his mind. They're trying to declare you incompetent, take your house. Each repetition struck like a hammer against his chest. Margaret stood near the doorway, wringing her hands. Sir, perhaps we should call the lawyer again? Confirm everything. Samuel shook his head, voice hollow but edged with anger. Confirmed, Margaret. I've seen the documents. Every line, every signature, every note. They're moving fast. Clara, my own daughter, she's part of this. Margaret's eyes widened. But why? She's always seemed so devoted. You've done everything for her. Samuel ran a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth. I don't know anymore. I've been blind. Blind to their ambition, blind to their greed. I thought our family dinners meant something. That they loved me. He stopped abruptly, staring at the hallway where family portraits hung. The images of Clara as a child, laughing, holding balloons at birthday parties, seemed to mock him now. How could those innocent eyes belong to someone capable of plotting such betrayal? They can't just take my house. My life's work, Samuel muttered, voice shaking. Every memory, every investment, they want it all. And they've orchestrated this like a performance, tonight at the dinner. A trap. Margaret approached cautiously. Sir, maybe it's better not to confront them immediately. We can plan, protect your assets. Samuel's eyes blazed. Protect? Yes, but I also need to see their faces. I need to understand how they could betray me so completely. My wife, my daughter. I raised her. I trusted her with everything. And this is how they repay me. He sank into his chair, feeling a suffocating mix of grief and rage. His hands trembled as he thought about the countless family dinners, the conversations, the laughter, all tainted now by suspicion and the looming threat of legal maneuvering. Margaret knelt beside him, voice trembling slightly. Sir, you're not alone. We'll navigate this together. But you have to be careful. One wrong move tonight. It could be irreversible. Samuel exhaled sharply, the weight of betrayal pressing him down. Careful, yes. I need to be careful. But I can't just sit and let them manipulate everything. I need a plan. He rose abruptly, moving to his desk and gathering papers, folders, and old deeds. His mind raced, forming strategies and contingencies. He had spent a lifetime building his home, his career, his legacy, and now every brick, every document, was under threat. Margaret watched him, silent but steady. We'll get through this, sir. Together. Samuel's jaw tightened. Together, he echoed. They think they can control me. That fear will bend me. But they underestimate everything I've endured, everything I've learned. Tonight, they will see. The room was thick with tension, every creak of the floorboards echoing the pounding of his heart. Samuel's fury had transformed into cold determination. He could feel the storm building inside him, the raw force of betrayal, the clarity of danger, and the unstoppable drive to reclaim control. When those closest to you betray you, do you act in fury, or do you plot your next move carefully? Samuel sat alone in the dim light of his study, the city outside glittering innocently while inside. Every corner of his home felt like a battlefield. He traced the edges of old photographs with trembling fingers, Clara smiling at her high school graduation, Margaret handing him his morning coffee, his wife Eleanor laughing at a family dinner. Every image now carried the bitter taste of betrayal. He opened the folders Richard had sent, notarized drafts, legal petitions, and meticulous notes outlining how Eleanor and Clara planned to declare him incompetent. The precision of their planning shocked him. They've been waiting for the right moment. They've calculated every move. His hands shook as he flipped through the pages, rage bubbling beneath the surface. Margaret appeared quietly, placing a cup of tea on the desk. Sir, you need rest. Your mind is racing, but exhaustion will cloud judgment. Samuel's eyes darted to her, a storm brewing behind his calm exterior. Rest? He repeated bitterly. How can I rest when my own daughter, my wife, are plotting to steal everything I've built? Every room in this house, every memory, under threat. He pushed the folders aside, standing abruptly, pacing the room. The anger inside him was like wildfire, consuming and relentless. He wanted to call Eleanor, demand answers, confront Clara, shake them until they understood the consequences of their actions. But Richard's warning echoed in his mind. One wrong move, Samuel, and they win. I can't just wait, Samuel muttered, voice low and tense. I need to act, but I need to think. Carefully. Every step must count. He moved to the window, staring out at the street below. The world seemed indifferent to his torment. Cars passed, couples laughed, lights twinkled, all unaware of the storm brewing inside one man's house. He clenched his fists. I won't be defeated. Not by them. Not tonight. Hours passed as he pored over documents, old contracts, and property papers. Each paragraph, each clause, became a weapon, a shield, a potential line of defense. Samuel's rage had transformed into meticulous focus. The initial heartbreak and disbelief were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but now they were sharpened into clarity. Margaret finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "Sir, I know you're furious. I know you feel betrayed. But remember, this is about strategy, not vengeance. Let's protect your rights, your home, your life. The storm of anger can guide you, but it can't blind you." Samuel nodded slowly, absorbing her words. She was right. Rage alone could destroy him faster than Eleanor or Clara ever could. He needed precision, patience, intelligence. But that didn't mean he would submit. He pulled out his phone and drafted a message to Richard. "Prepare everything. Tonight, we act carefully. No mistakes. They won't see this coming." His fingers hovered over the send button, hesitating for a heartbeat before hitting it. The die was cast. Sitting back in his chair, Samuel allowed himself a moment of reflection. The betrayal cut deep, but it had also ignited something powerful, a survival instinct, a determination to reclaim what was rightfully his, and to expose the hidden ambitions of those he had trusted most. Outside, the city celebrated, oblivious to the quiet war being plotted in one apartment. Samuel's eyes glinted with resolve. The descent into preparation, into careful planning fueled by both fear and fury, had begun. By the time Eleanor and Clara realized, it would be too late to manipulate him. When betrayal ignites a storm inside you, do you surrender to rage, or harness it to reclaim what's yours? The next morning, Samuel moved with quiet precision. Every detail mattered. The documents Richard had prepared were neatly organized on his desk, each folder a potential weapon or shield against Eleanor and Clara's scheming. He didn't want confrontation yet, not outright, but he needed to test their intentions, to feel their moves before making his own. Margaret watched him, concern etched on her face. "Sir, remember, subtlety is key. They'll react if they sense fear or anger." Samuel nodded, eyes sharp. "I know. That's why we proceed carefully. One wrong word, one visible tremor, and they think they can manipulate me. Not tonight." He began with small, strategic actions. A phone call to the bank, ensuring no sudden withdrawals could be made without his authorization. He quietly reviewed his property deeds, confirming that every clause protected him legally. Every safeguard he could implement, every loophole he could close, became a tiny act of control, a statement, "I am not defenseless." Later, he sent a brief message to Clara under the guise of casual concern. "I noticed some documents missing from the study. Did you move anything?" The response was cautious, clipped. She didn't lie, but she didn't deny anything either. That alone confirmed his suspicions. She was aware, involved, and complicit. Eleanor, meanwhile, appeared in the kitchen, pretending cheerfulness. "Samuel, the dinner tonight. It'll be fun. Why so tense?" He fixed her with a steady gaze, voice calm but edged. "I'm just making sure everything's in order. I'd hate for misunderstandings to ruin the evening." His tone was innocent, but Margaret noticed the calculated bite beneath it. As the day wore on, Samuel orchestrated more subtle moves. He left notes in plain sight, reminders of legal matters, references to Richard's office, hints that he was aware of manipulations. Nothing overt, nothing accusatory, just a quiet assertion of presence, of intelligence, of awareness. Margaret leaned close. "Sir, this is working. They're cautious now, second-guessing their own plans. They sense you're alert, but they don't know your full strategy." Samuel allowed a faint, grim smile. "Good. Let them feel the edge of uncertainty. They think they can manipulate me in front of witnesses tonight. Let's see if they falter under scrutiny." As evening approached, the atmosphere thickened with tension. The dinner would be the first confrontation, yet Samuel had already shifted the balance subtly. Eleanor and Clara moved carefully, adjusting their smiles, watching his reactions. The tables had turned, though he didn't yet know how far he could push without revealing his own plans too soon. He checked his watch, the seconds ticking like drums in his chest. Every moment, every glance, every whispered word mattered. Tonight wasn't about revenge yet. It was about preparation, observation, and asserting his presence in the game of deception his own family had forced upon him. Samuel's resolve was unwavering. The betrayal had lit a fire, but now, he wielded it as a tool. They had underestimated him, but the hunt had begun, and soon, every hidden ambition, every secret agenda would surface. If someone you trust plots against you, do you strike immediately or test the waters first, letting them reveal their true intentions? The dinner table was set immaculately, silverware gleaming, candles flickering, and Eleanor's carefully rehearsed smile firmly in place. Samuel arrived last, calm on the surface, but every muscle taut, every sense alert. He carried no anger in his voice, only a quiet intensity that made Margaret glance at him, understanding the storm beneath his composed exterior. As they sat, Eleanor launched into polite conversation, carefully steering topics away from money, legal matters, or inheritance. Clara's laughter was slightly forced, too precise, a practiced sound meant to disarm. But Samuel noticed the subtle tremor in her hand as she lifted her glass, the way her eyes flicked to the corners of the room, checking, calculating, aware of the net she had helped weave. Margaret, standing quietly nearby, whispered, "They think you don't know, but they don't see what you've uncovered yet." Samuel nodded imperceptibly, eyes narrowing as he subtly scanned the room. He had already seen the drafts, the notarized documents, the secret consultations with the lawyer's office. But now, sitting in their midst, he noticed something else, a deeper layer, one Eleanor had hoped to conceal. A stray napkin, folded with an almost imperceptible mark. A glass left slightly askew, hinting at a hurried signature or a hidden note beneath. Samuel leaned back, his mind working rapidly, connecting fragments he had missed in his initial review. They weren't just moving to declare me incompetent, they were planning to isolate me from everyone else. Friends, neighbors, Margaret, anyone who could intervene. His chest tightened as the reality sank in. The betrayal was more profound than he had imagined. Eleanor's charm, Clara's forced sweetness, both were tools of manipulation. They had rehearsed not just the legal paperwork, but the entire social setting to make him appear irrational, unstable, and unfit to anyone who might watch. Margaret, noticing his gaze, whispered softly, "It's worse than we thought. But now you know, sir. Now you can act with clarity." Samuel's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the intensity of revelation. Every smile from Eleanor, every laugh from Clara, now carried the weight of duplicity. He realized that their actions had been orchestrated meticulously, each step designed to manipulate, intimidate, and break him. He drew a steadying breath, allowing the surge of anger and hurt to crystallize into focus. "So it's not just greed or impatience," he muttered under his breath. "It's strategy. They want control, but they want it clean, invisible, without anyone knowing the truth." Margaret leaned closer. "Sir, now we can plan the response. They've exposed themselves, even if they think they're clever. This is your advantage." Samuel's mind raced. The revelation gave him power. Knowledge had always been a weapon, and now he had full awareness of their tactics, their intentions, their hidden ambitions. He could respond, not impulsively, not with rage, but with precision. The storm inside him had shifted from blind fury to calculated resolve. He glanced at Eleanor, smiling lightly, unaware of the depth of his insight. Then at Clara, attempting to appear carefree, while Samuel already knew the fragile truth behind her facade. Tonight, the confrontation was subtle, indirect, but Samuel had the advantage. Every misstep they made, every word spoken with hidden meaning, would feed the narrative he controlled. The betrayal was clear, but so was his path forward. When the full truth of betrayal is revealed, do you lash out immediately, or use it to reclaim control with precision? After the tense dinner, Samuel retreated to the quiet of his study. The revelation of Eleanor and Clara's meticulously plotted betrayal had left him both shaken and strangely empowered. But even with knowledge in hand, he knew he couldn't navigate this alone. He needed guidance, someone with experience, perspective, and the ability to see beyond personal emotions. Margaret entered quietly, placing a steaming cup of tea on the desk. "Sir, I know this feels overwhelming, but you're not alone in this. I've seen families manipulate each other before, and I can help you navigate their moves." Samuel regarded her thoughtfully. "Margaret, you've been here longer than anyone. You've seen the patterns, the subtleties. I trust you more than anyone in this house." She smiled faintly. "Then let's approach this carefully. Knowledge without support can be dangerous. But together, we can protect you and expose the truth without losing yourself in anger." Samuel took a deep breath. I've spent days analyzing every document, every note, every subtle indication of their plans. I know the legal angle, thanks to Richard. But the human element, that's trickier. That's where your insight comes in. Margaret nodded. We can create subtle interventions, reminders that you're aware and prepared. Small actions that unsettle them, without giving away your hand. They'll second-guess every move, every smile. He felt a surge of gratitude. After feeling isolated, betrayed, and hunted, having someone beside him who understood the stakes, and who cared for him without manipulation, was a relief. It was an alliance born not of convenience, but of loyalty and shared purpose. Samuel leaned back in his chair, considering the path ahead. We need to test them further, he said, voice low but firm. Tonight, they think they control the narrative. We'll allow them the illusion of power while subtly asserting our own. Every misstep they make, every hidden agenda revealed, will bring us closer to reclaiming control. Margaret added cautiously. And we must also remember, your integrity matters. We can't let anger push you to betray yourself. Your strategy must be precise, controlled, and moral, even as we counter theirs. Samuel's hands clenched on the desk. He realized she was right. The betrayal had tempted him toward subtle manipulations, toward revenge disguised as strategy. But true victory would come not from matching cruelty with cruelty, but from acting decisively, intelligently, and with integrity. I understand, he said finally. We act together, we observe, and we reclaim what is ours. Not with blind rage, but with calculated presence. With truth. Margaret smiled again, quietly proud. Then let's begin. Every move we make will remind them. You are not to be underestimated. And we will protect you, sir. Samuel felt a flicker of hope, a sense that the storm of betrayal could be channeled, controlled, and used as a tool for justice rather than destruction. He realized this alliance wasn't just tactical, it was emotional. It reminded him he wasn't alone, that loyalty still existed in the world, and that he could act without sacrificing himself to anger or despair. That night, as Eleanor and Clara moved through the house with subtle arrogance, Samuel and Margaret worked silently in tandem. Every glance, every small adjustment, every carefully placed reminder of his awareness unsettled them just enough to reveal cracks in their composure. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, Samuel felt not only control, but a strange satisfaction, the quiet power of an alliance grounded in loyalty, intelligence, and truth. When betrayal threatens everything, who could be your unexpected ally to guide you toward strategy and moral clarity? Samuel had thought the alliance with Margaret would steady him, give him clarity. And for a while it did. Every calculated move, every subtle message left around the house, seemed to unsettle Eleanor and Clara. Yet, late one night, he found himself staring at the documents once again, the weight of betrayal pressing harder than ever. A cold thought slithered into his mind. What if I don't just expose them? What if I make them pay? He shook his head sharply, trying to banish it. No, that's not me. I promised myself integrity. I promised Margaret. Yet the temptation lingered, whispering that clever manipulation could teach them a lesson, that a controlled act of revenge could satisfy the storm inside. Margaret entered quietly, noticing the tension in his posture. Sir, you've been at it for hours. What's troubling you? Samuel rubbed his temples, voice low and bitter. I keep thinking, maybe I should push harder. Make them feel the consequences. Not just protect myself, but punish them for the betrayal. Margaret's eyes widened slightly. Samuel, that path is dangerous. You'll lose yourself. The more we let anger guide our actions, the closer we get to becoming what we despise. Remember why we started this, to defend, not to harm. He nodded, but inwardly he struggled. Every slight misstep from Eleanor, every nervous glance from Clara, fed the temptation to act outside his moral boundaries. The betrayal within himself, the desire to mirror the cruelty he had suffered, was the hardest enemy he had faced so far. That night, he found himself drafting a carefully worded message to Clara, hinting at knowledge of all her secret communications with lawyers, her subtle manipulations, her hidden agendas. He paused before sending it, realizing it could be seen as coercive, even threatening. His fingers hovered over the send button, heart pounding. Margaret's voice cut softly through the silence. Samuel, if you send that, it will cross the line. You'll have vengeance, but at the cost of your integrity. He exhaled shakily, closing the draft without sending. The temptation remained, a gnawing shadow at the edge of his thoughts. The storm of betrayal had now forced him to confront himself, not just Eleanor and Clara, but his own capacity for darkness. Could he resist? Could he remain the man who fought for truth, not just retaliation? Hours later, he reflected on every calculated move, every piece of evidence, and every subtle tactic they had attempted. He realized that while Eleanor and Clara had betrayed him, he had come dangerously close to betraying his own principles. The realization was humbling, terrifying, and enlightening all at once. Margaret placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sir, even the strongest hearts are tested. The important thing is that you recognize the danger and you step back. That's where true strength lies." Samuel nodded, eyes steady. The dark temptation receded slightly, replaced by renewed clarity. He understood now that true justice didn't come from mirroring cruelty. It came from exposing truth, protecting oneself, and maintaining integrity even when the world seemed determined to corrupt it. As dawn approached, Samuel felt a hard-earned calm settle over him. The betrayal within had tested his soul, but he emerged stronger, wiser, and more resolute. He was ready for the final confrontation, ready to face Eleanor and Clara with truth, strategy, and the moral clarity he had fought to preserve. When your own heart tempts you toward darkness, can you resist and remain true to yourself, or will betrayal consume you from within? The evening was heavy with tension. Samuel had orchestrated the room carefully. Subtle reminders of his awareness placed strategically, documents aligned on the desk, and Margaret quietly observing from the side. Every detail was deliberate. Eleanor and Clara arrived, dressed impeccably, smiles practiced but brittle, the air around them buzzing with false confidence. "Samuel, you look tense," Eleanor said, voice sweet but edged with calculated charm. "Are you ready for tonight?" He smiled faintly, calm but sharp. "I've been ready, and I hope you are too." Clara's eyes flicked toward the desk, lingering on the folders Samuel had left subtly in view. Her hand froze for a moment. The first crack. Samuel began speaking, measured, precise. "I've reviewed everything. Every document, every note, every hidden plan. Richard confirmed the legal angle, and Margaret has been helping me understand the nuances you perhaps thought I'd overlook." Eleanor faltered slightly, a subtle flush creeping across her cheeks. "Samuel, what are you implying?" He leaned forward, voice calm but cold. "I'm implying that I know. I know about the attempts to declare me incompetent, the plans to take control of my house, and the strategies you thought were invisible. I've been patient, and I've observed. But patience has limits." Clara's forced smile wavered. We didn't mean." "You didn't mean?" Samuel cut in, voice steady. "You plotted, you manipulated, and you counted on my trust to shield your ambitions. I raised you, Clara. I trusted you. Eleanor, I built a life with you, and now you would dismantle it for control and greed." Margaret, standing quietly, subtly ensured all the documents were in place and evidence of their attempts was visible, reinforcing Samuel's words without a single accusation being wasted. Eleanor's eyes glistened with frustration, then a hint of fear. "Samuel, you don't understand. It wasn't just greed, it was desperation. We thought, if we acted first, we'd protect ourselves." Samuel shook his head, voice quiet but resolute. "Protect yourselves? By destroying trust? By undermining the very family you live in? That's not protection. That's betrayal." Clara's voice trembled now. I didn't know it would go this far. I thought you'd never notice." He leaned back, absorbing their reactions. The truth had been revealed, the betrayal exposed. His measured calm, his alliance with Margaret, and his own moral clarity had turned the tables. Now it was theirs to respond. "I'm not here to punish," Samuel said finally, softer now, controlled. "I'm here to demand honesty and respect. You have the choice. Rebuild trust, acknowledge your actions, and work to repair what you fractured, or continue down this path, knowing it will destroy relationships beyond repair." Margaret watched silently, proud. The reckoning was complete, not with fire or rage, but with truth and moral clarity. The storm of betrayal had been confronted, and the outcome rested not in vengeance, but in awareness, accountability, and the careful display of control. The room was silent for long moments. Eleanor and Clara exchanged a glance, realizing that Samuel's patience, intelligence, and integrity had stripped their schemes bare. The weight of their choices settled heavily in the air. Samuel exhaled slowly, feeling the tension lift slightly. He had faced betrayal, temptation, and moral peril, and now he stood at the center of resolution. The reckoning had been delivered, not with cruelty, but with undeniable truth. When betrayal comes from those you trust most, do you confront with fury or with clarity and moral strength? The house felt quieter now. The tension that had gripped every corner during the past weeks had lifted, replaced by a tentative, fragile calm. Samuel moved through the room slowly, absorbing the absence of hostility, the subtle acknowledgement of truth lingering in the air. Eleanor and Clara remained, subdued, their previous arrogance tempered by the weight of exposure and confrontation. Margaret followed at a discreet distance, her presence steady and reassuring. "Sir, it's done. The reckoning has passed. You faced them, and they understand they can't manipulate you." Samuel nodded, gazing at the dining table where the dinner had unfolded. The plates were still neatly stacked, the candles flickering faintly. He remembered the tension, the careful observations, the subtle strategies, and the revelation that had laid bare every hidden agenda. He felt exhaustion, yes, but also a strange clarity, a moral victory that went beyond possession of property or legal advantage. Eleanor approached him cautiously, her voice soft. "Samuel, I see now what we did. The planning, the scheming, it was wrong. I underestimated you, and I'm sorry." Samuel's eyes softened slightly, but he remained firm. "Acknowledging it is the first step, Eleanor. Apologies matter, but actions matter more. You have to rebuild trust. It won't be easy, but it's possible." Clara stepped forward, hesitant. "Dad, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I was helping, protecting, but I see now how wrong I was. Can you forgive me?" Samuel studied her for a long moment. The hurt was real, but so was the chance for restoration. "Clara, forgiveness isn't automatic. It's earned. But I believe in growth. We can try to rebuild, carefully, if you're willing to be honest from now on." Margaret watched, silently approving the restrained, yet emotionally charged, exchange. The house, once heavy with schemes and deceit, now held a tentative sense of reconciliation. The storm of betrayal had passed, leaving clarity and opportunity. Samuel took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. He reflected on the journey, from the initial shock of Eleanor and Clara's betrayal, to the temptation to mirror their cruelty, to the careful alliance with Margaret, and finally to the confrontation that laid every truth bare. He had been tested, not just by the betrayal, but by his own impulses toward darkness. And now, standing here, he felt a quiet transformation. He walked to his study, picking up a framed photo of Margaret, Eleanor, and Clara from happier times. It was a reminder of what had been lost, what had been nearly destroyed, and what could be restored with care, honesty, and patience. Outside, the city lights flickered, distant fireworks signaling celebrations, unaware of the quiet battles won in a single home. Samuel felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that while betrayal had threatened his world, his integrity, clarity, and courage had preserved not just his home, but himself. He glanced at Eleanor and Clara, their faces reflecting a mix of regret and tentative hope. "We have work to do," he said softly, "but we can start again. Honestly, carefully." Eleanor nodded, voice low. "We'll try, Samuel. We'll really try." Clara added, "I'll do everything I can to earn back your trust, Dad. I promise." Samuel smiled faintly, a weight lifting from his chest. The journey through betrayal, revelation, and reckoning had left scars, but it had also created a path toward understanding, moral clarity, and the possibility of restored family bonds. When betrayal cuts deepest, can you confront the truth, protect yourself, and still find a way to rebuild what was broken? Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.